morning. Nice day today, isn't it? It's cool, but it's nice. Nice and sunny. For a change, it's been a bit kind of lately. But yeah. Just gotta try and appreciate it while it lasts, because tomorrow it could be completely different. So I was like talking about hydration last night on a video and benefits of that, because a lot of us are just not getting enough water. Just something as simple as that, you know. A lot of people just, you know, they don't think to like go get a drink. And if you're doing that chronically, it can really like stress your body out. You know, isn't it like, I don't know, in like when they do their fasting and stuff, if I remember, they're not allowed to even drink water much, or I can't remember if it's right, but hello Emily, how are you doing? You know, like when they do like the Ramadan or whatever and they're fasting, if I remember, is it that they can't even like drink water or drink water? Because, like I said, you know, if you can't drink water, that can be quite bad for the body. So, yeah, it's nice. I don't know what it's like where you are, but it's pretty much just blue sky everywhere at the moment. So, yeah. Reminds me of that song, you know, Levelers. The one that goes like, what a beautiful day. You know that one? Yeah. That was, yeah, I don't know. Or You Too Beautiful Day as well, that's another one. Anyway. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. Share the live out if you can. But yeah, staying hydrated is one of the most important things. So you could have everything else on point, but then, you know, if you're not drinking enough, then your whole health can just be messed up. I'm okay, I guess. I'm just walking around at the moment, you know, just gonna go get some bits. I usually just do it every day, try and get what I need, just get my steps in, you know. Because otherwise I'd have to like go get a whole bunch of shopping every week or so, and I just wouldn't be able to like manage it all. Then I'd have to probably get on a bus or something. But I want to try and just get my steps in, really. Hello Vic, how you doing? Get the blood pumping. On about like water and hydration and all that. Like I say, it's really important, that stuff, isn't it? Thank you for the like, whoever that is. Yeah, hit the like button. Everybody got 12 here apparently, so welcome in everybody. Thank you for the 2 likes, everyone. So what's everybody's plans for the day then? Jenny, how's it going? Hope you're well. Welcome in. Hope you're having a great day. If anybody's new here, please subscribe to the channel. That would be really appreciated. I'm live basically every day, so yeah, so I'd appreciate it if you could come along and be part of this. So yeah, how are you doing, Vic? How are you doing, Emily? Yeah, I literally passed out on the sofa and realised I've only had 1 cup of tea all day. Well, it's actually not bad, that, is it? You know, because like I said, too much caffeine isn't good, is it? Especially if you have it too late in the day. Hello, Reluctant, how you doing? Some say like the cut-off should be about 3 p.m, but I'd actually argue that you probably shouldn't even have it in the afternoon, really, because caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. So if you go to bed at like 10 p.m. and you're and you're having caffeine at 3 p.m., then that means that it's only been 7 hours since your last cup, and there's still going to be some in your system. So I'd say like probably best to only have it in the morning if you need it, just to perk you up a bit. But I would look into like your sleep as well, because for example, blue lights and stuff like that, because if you're needing to have a cup of coffee just to feel awake, then maybe there's some issue there that you need to deal with potentially. So I've been known to drink an energy drink and sleep 10 minutes after. Maybe that's an ADHD thing then, I don't know, because I've heard that some people like with ADHD, that caffeine has the opposite effect in them. Instead of perking them up, it actually can make them drowsy. So, or just make them more calm or something. So, yeah, definitely got issues, right? I don't know, but the thing with like ADHD is that it can do the opposite apparently. Where if you drink coffee, then you feel less energized as opposed to more. So some say it could be helping some people, but I don't know. I just remember someone was talking about a while ago saying that it's a tip for like people with ADHD that coffee can help them in some cases. But the thing is, you got to be careful. There could be unintended consequences with things, because like oftentimes something might seem good, but then it's like when people do the pre-workout and all that, and they're like trying to use it to get more energy, to get them more pumped to go to the gym or whatever, but then end up actually making you worse, making you end up becoming more tired and getting less productive workouts, less results from the workouts. So so you got to be careful what you're doing. Do things strategically, do things with the right timings and stuff like that, otherwise it can really mess you up. Hello Mountain Dew. Hello, how are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. So it's all about kind of being smart so you don't end up messing yourself up, your hormones and everything. Just want to make sure that we know what we're doing, because something might make you good in that moment, but then a few hours later you might feel like crap, and it's just not going to really help you. So hello David. Yeah, I do remember you. You've changed your channel or something, I don't know, you've changed your picture anyway. Hope you're doing well today anyway, David. Yeah, you've been living in Scarborough, right, isn't it? Yeah. What's the weather like over there? It's quite nice here at the moment. Yeah, it's not even that cold actually. It's supposed to get a bit colder at the weekend though, but it's it's not got cold yet this year. So I don't know what it's going to be like in winter, but hopefully it's not going to be too cold. But there's this whole thing with like climate change. So I was talking with someone about this yesterday, about like climate change, and because he's quite serious about it all and thinks that everyone should stop driving and stuff like that. But I'm like, is that really practical? But I don't think you're going to convince everyone to stop driving. Hello Sir Jackie. Oh really? So basically I don't really think that you're going to convince everybody to stop driving. But I was saying now, like, you had to say like British Petroleum, basically trying to they actually coined the term carbon footprint to basically pass blame onto the consumers. But he agreed that it's the consumers' fault for all the pollution, but really it's actually the companies and stuff that are, because they could do better. And it's just that people need to consume, the people are, I mean, not all the time, obviously sometimes people consume a bit too much, of course, consumerism can get crazy, but like basically that trying to blame the consumers for it all is just a way of shifting blame when it's really their fault. Why, it's like they could have invested in more cleaner fuels, but they choose not to. So it's like a way of trying to blame the consumer. And sometimes it isn't always in your, it depends on your lifestyle and depends on what you need. Yeah, I think that if you're, wasting stuff, that's not good. If you're, creating too much of a waste, then that's gonna. But I don't know. There's this whole thing of carbon footprint. It's just a way to guilt trip people, shifting blame from where it's actually coming from. I mean, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't trust in these companies and stuff to, they're all just trying to shift blame away, and they also do, a lot of times these companies will do things like they'll do stuff, they'll talk about, I don't know, it's like, for example, they'll say we plant 3 trees for every tree that we cut down. It's like, to me that could be something quite misleading. And does that actually happen? The whole thing of, for every tree we cut down, we're going to plant 3 new ones. Yeah, that sounds good, but then does that actually happen though? Because, or if it does happen, are they not very good quality trees, for example, or something I don't know. We've got to ask these questions of is what they're saying actually true? Are they trying to mislead people? Because they want you to think that they're all green and that they're gonna, do more positive than negative. But are they though? I just don't really trust that, they're actually going to be doing all that. It could just be that they have some kind of investment. For example, this could be a theory, so I don't know enough about it, but one of the things that they could do is say they have some investment in some company that plants trees. So then they could say that they're the ones planting the trees because they are kind of invested in that. But what they don't tell you is that those trees were getting planted anyway, and that they basically were just kind of they probably just kind of have some investment in tree planting or something, I don't know, but it's those trees were getting planted anyway, or something like that. I don't know what you guys think. Is it some kind of scam, they're trying to make out they're doing some kind of net good? Look, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's there's this whole thing of carbon offsetting and stuff like that, and all these sorts of things, but then, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure about how bad carbon is for the environment and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of arguments about that, and people saying that it really doesn't make that big of a difference and all that. Now, it kind of makes sense that it would kind of act as a greenhouse gas, and that too much of it in the atmosphere and not enough way to offset it could create an imbalance and therefore increase temperatures. But by how much is the question? How much does it increase temperatures? It's hard to really kind of get an actual science on that because of how complicated it all is and so many different variables. But I don't know what you guys think really, but yeah, it's sunny today, yeah. Anyway, what's up everybody? It's just, they put out all this kind of stuff about, things, and it's hard to really know the truth about things. And we can't just blindly trust in authorities. So I've come to realise that whatever the authorities tell you, it's take it with a pinch of salt in a lot of cases, unless you can validate it for yourself. Because sometimes they might have an agenda. They're trying to mislead you. But I do think that we shouldn't be chop too many trees down, but then But then some argue that we should chop some down to kind of like keep it from getting too out of control. I remember someone was saying that, well, one of the things that they need to do more is what is it? Clearing dead wood, and that's one of the big causes of forest fires. So a lot of people talk about climate change and all that, but don't really hear a lot of them talking about how they're just kind of like leaving dead wood there to rot, basically, and a lot of that is actually a very kind of big cause of forest fires. So it's just something that I think that people need to be aware of, because they'll just kind of like paint this narrative that it's all because of climate change. And yeah, maybe that is true to some degree, but there's other factors going on. So yeah, like for example, with climate change, they talk about CO2, but I think a lot of the cause for it potentially, if it is, you know, the climate change, that is actually due to radiation. It's due to more heat being produced. For example, we've got things like, you know, central heating and different things, and more, you know, like as the populations get bigger, there's going to be more heat getting produced and getting emitted into the atmosphere. So I think a lot of it comes down to the heat emissions. I would have thought. I don't know how much of an effect it would have, but I think that needs to be taken into consideration, and it's not all because of CO2, but hello Tracy, how you doing? I hope you're well. Like I said, there's just a lot of different variables with like climate, and it's just, we also need to take into account things like geoengineering and the effects that might have on the climate. That's like unintended consequences potentially. So like, you know, there's just so many different variables that we need to look at to kind of, and it's hard to really get like an accurate kind of picture of everything. People just kind of hyper focusing on one particular variable that may or may not be having a huge impact. And I mean, it makes sense that, you know, if you're putting out all this carbon, can definitely increase the temperatures to some degree, but to what degree is the question, and what degree other factors are playing. Like for example, you know, people are, there's, you know, been generally more people, more heat gets produced because, you know, there's a lot of heat coming out of different buildings and stuff. Even, like I said, people's homes are putting out a lot of heat into the atmosphere. So yeah, you'll find that like urban temperatures tend to have gone up quite a bit in general, but the countryside temperatures can get quite cold at times as we become more urbanized and with more and more people. Then, so some might argue that is, you know, that we shouldn't really keep, you know, expanding the population forever, because the amount of heat that would end up being put out in order to maintain that could become quite sort of bad or something. So I don't know, it's like yeah. Now one argument is that, now this could be an argument for electric cars. I'm not saying I think that they're good or anything, but they put out less heat from what I've seen. Like when you've got, like, say, all these emissions coming out of cars, like petrol and diesel emissions and gas and whatever, puts out a lot of heat. It's putting out a lot of, you know, if you've ever been like close to a car or something, it's like there's a lot of heat coming out of it. It's gonna, like, I don't know how much of an effect it can have really, but like I said, all these things are putting out heat. So the question is, how much of an effect does this have on the overall climate? We have to look at things in terms of like, like the bigger picture of things, in terms of just focusing on one element. And it says here, add a Q&A sticker. Yeah, how you doing, Tracy? Is anyone still here? Hope everyone's well anyway. Well, my point is that we can't always trust everything, the narrative and all that. And well, I do think that it is true that climate has changed, for sure. I think that the climate does seem kind of weird. I was talking about this a while ago and arguing with people and saying, oh no, it's just normal. So I remember it was like in kind of, I think even from about March till about, we had a few months of just glorious weather actually. It was hardly any rain, and it seems kind of like it's getting more and more like that. We seem to be getting less winter and more kind of warmer and warmer weather, which suggests that there has been some changes. And what is the actual cause of this? Is that because there's more and more people, more and more heat, or being put out into the atmosphere? Is that one of the reasons? So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to there's a lot of things to really consider. I mean, a lot of these factories, it's like, they won't just be putting out CO2, they'll be putting out heat. But actually, if there's enough like plants, I guess they could like offset the CO2 or something, but you would still have more heat being produced or something, I don't know. So, but yeah, there is also like some potentially bad things about electric cars. So it's one of those things I'm a bit I wouldn't necessarily want to promote them because there's been some bad things that have happened and it's a bit dodgy to me. But yeah, we just got to be I think they're on the side of caution with new technology and things, and until we see that they're actually really as good as what they make them out to be. It's like, for example, a new product, like a new medicine comes out. I think we should be a bit cautious until there's enough data to kind of back it up and all that. Because we can just get we can just get sort of deceived into thinking that something's really good for you, but then 10 years go by and then there's all sorts of problems happening. But it's up to us to just become smarter and just not fall for any BS that, something's safe or whatever, or something's effective when we don't know the long-term implications of it. So, yeah, just got to be cautious, just be smart about things, not just take everything at face value. Because someone says something, that doesn't mean it's true. Like, for example, back in 2020, and people were, like promoting these, these jabs, right? And they would say stuff like safe and effective. But then months go by, years go by, and then all this data comes out. Hello, Haley, how you doing? All this data comes out of people getting all sorts of problems from them, and but people just were scared into getting them. They were like, they say it's safe and effective, and but it's like we need to be a bit smarter than that, really. I think it's just, not saying everyone shouldn't do it, but it's like, but it's this whole thing of people just promoting it to everybody, like everybody should be doing it. It's just, anyway, I'm okay, thank you. So just going about this whole climate change thing, because I was actually having a chat with somebody yesterday, and he's a very much strong believer in like climate change and how if we don't, he has a kind of like doomsday kind of mindset around it. And but the thing is with climate change is that there's this whole thing about CO2 emissions and all that, but it's like, is it really all because of CO2? Like I said, there's a lot of different variables, and it's hard to really kind of say for certain what's going on. I do see some changes in the climate. Things do seem to have kind of changed. Hello, Osh Gaming, how you doing? I hope you're well. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for the 4 likes, everybody. Got 8 people, so can we get to 8 likes real quick? That would be great. So I just think that we should be a bit kind of skeptical about things, because it's like, unless we know everything, unless we have studied it for many, many years, then we can't really say for certain, that what these people are saying is true. There's just too many things that to take into consideration. Like, for example, like I said, some of the heat, warming, whatever, it could be that geoengineering could be a part. We don't know. Like, there's some evidence that it can actually cause like a rebound effect, where the attempt to cool the temperature may actually end up making it worse and making the temperatures hotter. So we have to, investigate these things. And if people that are trying to say that it doesn't exist or whatever, but then, are those people that are saying that, just won't pay for? Are they being told to say that? That might sound all conspiracy theories and whatever, but with geoengineering, we have to question, is this something that we should be doing? And it's like, yeah, it might seem good in that moment to put some rain on some place that is normally dry, but is that really good for the long term? Putting rain over some desert, because then could that cause the weather to be messed up somewhere else and cause droughts in some other place, for example? It's just, obviously I don't know enough about all this stuff, but I remember reading an article a while ago that explained the mechanism behind that, and that theory of this kind of rebound effect of trying to modify the weather. Now, you might argue, well, it's just not happening on a wide enough scale for it to really make a big difference, but the thing is that if it is having some effect, then it's like we have to sort of take that into account. Hello, Raven, how are you doing? I hope you're well. Welcome to my live. If you're new here, please please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for the 5 likes. We've got 11 people here, so can you just all hit that like button? So, what do you guys think then? Because I'm not really getting a lot of feedback, because I'm trying to like convo going on. If people disagree, I don't know. The thing is, I was talking with this guy, and then we ended up talking about dictatorships, and he had this opinion that like it's a thing of like, well, he says, well, most people are benevolent, therefore most likely that if we had a dictator he would be benevolent. But I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because how would you, it's like, basically, how would you know that they're benevolent? It's like, even if it's most likely the case, if there's a chance that they're basically and the thing is, most of the people that would want to become a dictator are not going to be benevolent, because they have a very kind of like, sort of like the whole thing of wanting to take control of everything. These people tend to be quite, sort of, what's the word? Megalomaniacs and whatever, and just kind of generally quite psychotic and, dark triad kind of personality types of trying to control everything. These are the type of people that usually want to become dictators in the first place. So you're probably going to end up with mostly bad people by doing that, because why would anyone want to try and impose their will on everybody? How do they know what everybody wants? Unless you give people the chance to like choose what they want, then it's like it's just psychotic. And even if you started off with good intentions, it's like you just become so in your own head of like what you think is right, that you don't care about like what people think is right. You just have your own ideals of like. Well, they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So what I mean by that is that people can start off with good intentions, and then what ends up happening is they become corrupted. They become just like obsessed with power, and that's something we've got to be careful of, and to not let ourselves get to that point. And if we did get that level of power, but it could be difficult for people to just. So I guess no one should really have that level of power, is what I'm saying, because it's dangerous. That's what I'm saying. It's like we don't know what someone could do with it, and someone could change. Someone could have been a good person and then flip. As soon as they get the power, they get this kind of sense of, of domination. We've got to be careful with things like that. Really, it's dangerous. And then we've seen it, but then he reckons that the whole China thing is propaganda. But it's like. But you see the stuff that's happened in China, like the Chinese social credit scores and shit like that, and it's like, come on guys, look what happened in 2020, the way that they trapped people during, like they basically locked people in their own homes. They literally boarded up houses, I think, something like that. Or kind of psycho that does that shit, It's just absolutely crazy. But like, it's just that they just kind of, who thinks that's a good idea? So it seems like any dictatorship like that, North Korea or places like, like Soviet Russia or whatever, that was just a complete shit show. Or even not modern Russia as well, you could argue that's like a dictatorship as well. They're all just trying to, use that as a way of dominating the people. Whereas countries that generally have more freedom tend to be a lot, fairer and more, something that is not like a totalitarian or a dictatorship or something. Because, like I said, it's dangerous when you let a politician take full control over your population. You end up without any freedom whatsoever. I think freedom is a value that we should all be trying to really protect, because it's something that is, that they want to take away from you. They want to take away your rights. They want to take away your freedoms. They want to basically have everyone, if they got their own way, they would basically have it completely digital money, digital everything, and they're already going with the digital IDs and stuff, and at some point they might even make it to where it's mandatory for everyone just to be able to, go to a shop, that you'll have to do things like that. And it's like, at what point will people say enough's enough? At what point are people going to be like, that they pushed us, too far, and now we're gonna, we're not gonna stand for it anymore. But if if you let a dictator take control, then they have so much power, then there's nothing that we can do. And it gets dangerous, and they're just like, So I don't agree with that whole thing of, thinking that like if we had a dictator, they would be benevolent. Absolutely not. It almost seemed like he was being ironic for what he was saying. I was like, I couldn't really, and I was saying, he was saying he has a lot of faith in humanity, but it's like I see a lot of shit going on, even just your everyday people who, stabbing each other in the back. And I mean, I find it harder and harder to think that most people are good. I don't know. There is good people out there, but I started to think that like humanity's kind of fucked. It's like there's a lot of inhumanity. A lot of just where you think, what makes someone do that sort of stuff? What makes someone become such a maniac to become like that, or just selfish or whatever. and we all have problems, and it's like, I just think you'd have to be incredibly naive to think that a dictator would have your best interests at heart. And the thing is, even if they did, they would probably become a corrupted, and it would just become like, someone could be so like, you know, attached to some ideal, some kind of ideology that it's like, that becomes their whole identity, and that's what they need to bring about. Now, like I said, I want to start a political party, but I'm like, the way it would be about trying to give people, you know, the ability to be able to make the world however they want it to be, rather than, they might say about the whole thing of mob rule, but then, you know, saying that that's bad, but it's like, well, isn't it better than having a dictator, though? At least you're then letting the majority have their way, rather than some fucking dictator that's, I don't know. So I think that, yeah, so I think we got into it because I was talking about the whole thing of like communism and saying that the problem with that is there's no democracy, but I would argue that through communism you would actually have a, you know, in a real communist sort of state, you would actually have democracy, because it would be about, you know, sort of like, there would be no hierarchies. Like that tends to be the idea of because this is the paradox of what people, you know, consider as communism, where they have this ruthless dictator. How is that actually communism? You could say it's communism for the poor, and then you've got the elite class of, like, you know, the politicians and stuff who just are subverting everything and for their own gain, basically. So, but the point is that, you know, that the whole idea of there being no hierarchy, but how can that be the case if you've got someone that can have power over everybody? Isn't the idea of communism where everybody has a say and everyone, you know, has rights, whereas, you know, if you have a government, then that kind of takes away from the whole idea of communism from my perspective of what communism was supposed to be. I'm not saying that it could necessarily work, but at least in a way that it's, like, in terms of, you know, having a dictator, that is an absolute abomination, and it's it's basically just like fascism, two sides of the same coin, really, because they both seem to be very, like, nationalistic. It's like, you've got, say, North Korea, for example. You know, it's like, you've got these, like, right-wing nationalist types, but it seems as though if they go extremely to, like, the nationalist side, it's like they almost become, like, one and the same with, like say, people like communism and stuff, like North Korea, because they're all very much like nationalists. They're very much like, it's like, for example, you have, like, say, National Socialism or National Communism. It's basically, they're almost the same as fascism, or they're pretty much all fascism, you know. It's just two sides of the same coin, pretty much, because it's all a dictatorship. Like North Korea, China, they're dictatorships. They're really not that much different from, say, like 1930s Germany in terms of the way that they're run, and any kind of fascist state, any extremely nationalist state, they're all basically the same thing. You know, it's like, so it's all just like this. Some people actually argue that the left and the right are kind of like at the extremes. They're actually quite close to each other, and I think that there is some, like, truth to that, in that you look at, like, extreme left wing, extreme right wing, they get to that point where, you know, freedoms are, like, no longer a thing, because it's all very nationalistic. Because in order to have these sort of, for example, like, you know, whatever, like, you know, say Soviet Russia or whatever, and then they had to basically be fascist, basically, because it's got, like, a really, like, authoritarian government. So, yeah. Now, some people also argue that, like, politics is more like a two-way axis of like a left to right and also an up and a down. Where you've got authoritarian and like libertarian. But it seems like those that are on the extreme left and right tend to kind of be very much on the dictatorship kind of side of things, really. And you don't seem to get a lot of people on the extreme left who are like, say, or the extreme right who are more kind of anarchists or something like that, or whatever. They tend to be kind of very much ruled by some kind of dictator. But yeah, I don't know. It's all really messed up. I mean, it's all just, yeah. So basically just, I mean, politics is a joke. Like, there's no such thing as democracy, at least in this country anyway. In most of the white Western countries, it doesn't exist. Because the idea is that with like democracy is that everyone gets a say in things. You only get a democracy as far as the votes, being able to democratically vote somebody, but then that's where the democracy ends, and then they have all power then. We don't even really live in a democracy, do we? At least not in an absolute way. Because to me a democracy would mean that you're able to, vote for things, vote for policies and things like that, like say if there needs to be a policy change or something like that, or if there's say like some kind of emergency, then we all need to be able to have a say on that. Otherwise that's not a democracy, that's a dictatorship by design, but by definition. If you're able to make decisions on behalf of the population, then that means that you are dictating your way instead of letting the public decide what they want. And I think that is dangerous, like when like you have let someone do that. You saw what happened in 2020 when you let your dictators decide what was best for the people instead of letting the people decide what's best for them. So I'm going to be getting off of it in a couple of minutes, but I just thought I'd have a bit of a rant about this whole thing of so-called democracy, and it's a joke. It doesn't even exist. Like I said, how can you really call yourself a democracy if... But it's like you've got things like these governments that call themselves Democrats or whatever, right? Liberal Democrats, Social Democrats. Are they actually really democratic? Is it about actually letting the people vote on whatever they think actually, whatever they want? Because to me that's what a Democrat would do. Because you've got like the Democrat government in America, for example. Do they actually give people the chance to vote on issues? Or is it just a word that they use just as a way to kind of like market themselves as like, we are Democrats? It sounds good to like the left, I guess, but in reality maybe they're more kind of just they just seem to be just as much of a oppressive as the right wing. So it's all a joke to me, really. It's like when it's like the Conservatives aren't even really conservative. The only thing they conserve is their own, is their own like vested interests and the interests of the like the corporations and their own money. Basically, that's the only thing they conserve. It's not about conserving of like traditional values and things like that. That's supposed to be what it is, right? Being conservative. It's about yeah. Oh, hello, Barry. How you doing? Oh no, that's a joke, isn't it? Oh goodness. So, like I said, just they're trying to like gaslight people, trying to tell people, oh, this, oh, we're Democrats or we're this and that. Though they're not really, are they? They're whatever the corporate powers that they'll dictate to them. So actually, they are the actual dictators, is the corporate interest, because money really controls everything, doesn't it? In this world, that's the really messed up thing, is that a lot of people make decisions based on money. They'll make decisions about what job to have, what things to buy because of how much it costs. A lot of the time, it's all because of money. People's decisions, almost every decision, is based on how it will, affect them financially. And that's the problem with this, the way that this system is set up. It's like everything's all about money. And like I said, in an ideal world, we would be like, it'd be all about experience and about sharing experience with each other and having connection and things like that. Enjoying the simple things like walks in nature and playing games and whatever like people want to do. But it's all about money, and it just takes the fun out of everything, doesn't it, when everything becomes about money, how much money you can make. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to make money, but it's like, when your whole life is focused on that, then all these people end up becoming miserable, because they don't oftentimes have much of a personality. They just become weird, and they haven't really got some good memories to share. And what kind of life is that, really? If your whole life is just dedicated to making as much money as you can, they don't stop to think like, why am I even doing this? They're always constantly just distracted with chasing that money, but they think by doing that they're chasing happiness. But the truth is that happiness, you don't have to chase it. You can claim it right now, here right now, by practicing gratitude, being grateful for the moment that you live in. Because oftentimes the things they do to actually make the money is that they're not actually fulfilled by. Now, if you actually really enjoy your work, gives you purpose, great. You can make money out of that, great. It's a win-win then. Most of these people are not even really that happy. Most of these multi-millionaires, billionaires, are they really that happy deep down? I don't think they are. Oftentimes they're stressing themselves out there, and they're just selling themselves out basically. Anyway, alright, mint chocolate, how you doing? You alright? So just saying about the whole thing of, so I'll talk about a few things really, but about how we shouldn't trust in authorities and how, and also we shouldn't be prioritizing money over everything else. Oh, a bit sore, welcome. So we shouldn't be prioritizing money over everything else, because it's like, your purpose should come first, I think, and your passion. Your passions, your purpose, all that's got to come first. And gratitude and all that. Money is just a tool, but it's like, the thing is that all these people want, and then they need all this money to make, but then they don't need it. They've just been conditioned into it, like keeping up with the Joneses and all that. They're never truly happy. Never really truly happy with who they are. They haven't learned to just be like independent of like external validation. Because to me, that's when you are successful. Once you get free from that and you learn to validate yourself, it's like, why do you need to buy this thing to get validation off others? To basically sacrifice so much of yourself in order to just to get validation. We put so much value in external validation and not in our own validation. It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? So we just have to really kind of question what value does that give you, like, to external validation? Why isn't my own validation worth anything? Because maybe you have some issues that you need to work on or something, if that is the case. Because clearly there's something wrong there if you feel the need to just constantly keep up with the Joneses. Maybe you have to find your own people. Find people who aren't so caught up in material greed. I don't value money. It's nice to live comfortable, but I'd rather the smaller things in life, good people around me and people who care and check up on you. That's important, yeah. The problem is a lot of these people that all they do is focus on making money. They don't even have any friends, or at least not any good friends. Oftentimes the friends they do have are other people who are very materialistic and shallow and just... So these are not necessarily people you want. And find the people who actually have shared values and shared experiences and stuff, but then what kind of experiences do you have if all your focus is on making money? You become a very boring, one-sided person. It's like when people make gym their whole personality. I don't agree with that either. It's like you just basically become like this one-dimensional being. So it's important that we have more to us than just the gym. But that's just me. I can have fun without money. There's a lot you can do. Loads of free days out, like museums and art galleries. Yeah, exactly. Even just playing some fun games, playing just some there's games that you can play like that don't really cost anything or very little, But once you've got it, then it's free. It's just, but we just don't really think about that. We just think about, oh, how much money can I make? Oh, I need that, like jacuzzi in my house. It's like, you don't need that, do you? It's like, you could just if you wanted to use that, then you could just, go and hire one out. You don't actually need to go and do that. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to buy anything unless necessity like food and things like that, clothing, whatever. There's only certain things that we need to do, and we just get so carried away with trying to be successful that we're never successful, because to me success is about content and a sense of fulfillment and purpose in life. Otherwise you're just constantly chasing rainbows essentially. So yeah, so I might make some content around this whole thing of like how much money do we actually need? And what would be the optimal amount of money? I guess it depends on each individual, but if we're talking in general, if we want to have a good life, we want to travel, we want to have experiences in life, the thing is we don't even necessarily need that much to even go traveling. There's a lot of places you can go traveling and it doesn't really cost that much. There's a lot of places in for example in Southeast Asia that are very cheap actually. And even even in some places in Europe, like Spain, the prices of some things are actually quite cheap. In fact, some people can find that it's cheaper to go on holiday to some places than to literally have a staycation. Even when they take into account the flights and stuff, it's going to be cheaper to, in some cases, go have a holiday in Spain or something. Because you find that the foods is cheaper, you don't have to pay as much for restaurants and things like that. So there's ways to to live a good life and travel and do things. You don't necessarily need to have tons and tons of money. Who the hell needs to go to Dubai? Is it shit anyway? I don't know why anyone would even want to go there. Why would anyone even want to live there? It's crazy, isn't it? Wanting to live in somewhere that's such a materialistic kind of hellhole to me. It looks awful. It's just concrete jungle on steroids. It's who the hell wants to go there? I mean, that is so true. People want things that ain't necessary, and I agree. It's all about trying to show off and think they're better than others because they have things that others can't afford, but it doesn't make sense. Yeah, no, it's all about, I think what it is that, like I said, this whole thing of arrogance and trying to show off, it comes a lot from insecurity, I believe. Most of these people, I think, are deeply insecure deep down. Like they have deep-rooted issues that they haven't addressed, so then they end up, you know, trying to like prove that they're better than others to try and compensate for that or something, because deep down in their own mind they're not secure in themselves, they're not comfortable in their own skin. It could just be that this whole thing of like needing to, I don't know, some people do have this thing of like, maybe it is a sort of like a evolutionary psychology where, you know, we can get like, say like in groups and stuff, and like if you're not keeping up with that group, then there's that fear of like being cast out from the group. But like I said, if that's the case, then you need to find people who are not so high maintenance and not so, there's not so much pressure to, you know, because that's the thing, is that people will just kind of, you know, feel pressured to sort of pressured to maintain a certain kind of lifestyle to impress all the other people in that group. Otherwise they feel like they're going to be, you know, not really respected or whatever. Or in that case, like I said, there's so many people out there you can find that you can, maybe more spiritually inclined people who have more interest in immaterial things like experiences and just having good times with people, and not so much about having the latest gadgets. So anyway, I'm going to get going, everybody, so I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.